CII's technology committee designed the technology.
good afternoon. This is Misha. Can you hear me okay?
I can. How's it going, sir?
Awesome. Thank you. Good. I was just checking my video and audio just to make sure everything works.
It works, and then we will get started here at 2:20.
Fantastic. All right. Thank you so much. I guess I will just keep it up for a few minutes.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
CII's Technology Committee designed the Technology Path to the Future initiative to inspire a technological step change in the capital projects industry. The aim was to envision the future of the industry with a vigor that challenges industry participants to think boldly. The team conducted innovation workshops and brainstorming sessions with young professionals and established leaders. And what emerged was the Challenge Teams program, a way to give teams the freedom to think big, but with enough structure to sort concepts into 5, 10, or 30-year milestones. Here to present their findings, please welcome Fernanda Leite, Jan Kuhlman, Misha Nikulin, and Todd Sutton.
Hello, my name is Fernanda Leite. I'm an associate professor at the University of Texas at Austin, and I'm joined today by Jan Kuhlman from ExxonMobil, Todd Sutton from Zachary Corporation, and Misha Nikulin from Bechtel Corporation. We are here representing Technology Committee 04, the Path to the Future research team, to talk about technology and innovation in 2050. Our team came together in July 2019, and we had a charter of re-envisioning the delivery of capital projects. And we actually started our creative process looking at cartoons such as the Jetsons from the 1950s. And a lot of these technologies that were envisioned by cartoonists and artists in the 1960s really inspired an entire generation of scientists and engineers to develop these technologies that today, many of which are very ubiquitous in our lives. So our goal is to really inspire, that's the key word, inspire a technology-based step change in the capital projects industry by really thinking boldly and thinking outside the box. Today, you'll hear about our motivation for this effort, Technology Path to the Future. We'll discuss our development process, and we'll talk about our results, which include our 12 technology enablers, our 5 initial challenge teams, and a compilation of the results of the 5 challenge teams into a 2050 vision. We began our process by carrying out an ideation process through crowdsourcing. So we wanted to collect ideas from the largest number of individuals that we could possibly recruit to help us envision this future of capital projects. And we initially thought of recruiting the next generation leaders, so current college students, since they are unencumbered by their previous professional experience. So we carried out 3 workshops, 3 innovation workshops, one at the University of Texas at Austin, at Carnegie Mellon University, and at Georgia Tech. And these workshops, we had over 100 students participate in all of that. We consolidated, collected all the ideas from the students in these workshops, and had the technology committee in our fall face-to-face meeting distill and help us make sense of all of these ideas that the students came up with in the crowdsourcing workshops. This resulted in 12 technology enablers and our 5 initial challenge teams, which were launched earlier this year. So then when we had this idea of carrying out workshops in university, in various universities, we also had the challenge of how are we going to recruit college students to come and spend an entire Saturday afternoon with us in these innovation workshops. And that's where we came up with the idea of the Mars Industries Workshop. So the idea is that it would be a simulated boot camp for entrepreneurs that were planning ventures in Mars. And we thought about Mars because Mars has a lot of unknowns, a lot of unfamiliar situations, lack of resources. You don't have access to the same things you would have here on Earth if you want to build a new venture in Mars. And that would place the students in the exact mindset that we wanted them to have, to really think beyond how we currently design and deliver projects, but thinking in a whole different way if we didn't have access to the things that we have here on Earth. And we wanted to recruit a variety of majors, people with different, beyond our traditional disciplines of engineering, so much beyond engineering disciplines. So we actually recruited them through this very vague poster. This is one of the examples of the poster that we pasted all over these 3 universities. And we were able to then recruit a variety of students from various different majors across these 3 universities. And these workshops happened in 3 different days, and these were face-to-face workshops. So this video will give you an idea of what we did in this workshop. And I'll let you watch the video, and it'll give you a better sense of what happened.
We're trying to envision what the future of the construction industry will look like. Is we wanted to crowdsource individuals that are unencumbered by their own personal and professional experiences.
So we came up with the idea of using university students.
I'm Andres. I'm a 3rd-year mechanical engineering student.
Architectural engineering.
Civil engineering.
I'm actually a high school student.
And we're deliberately targeting students because they don't have experience in the industry. And we believe that they have more creativity and will help us generate that path for future construction projects.
One thing led to another, and we were brainstorming about the industries of Mars and how Mars would provide a big pull for the students.
You get to really work with a group of people and get their ideas, but also exchange ideas with other groups. And it really just makes you look at the big picture.
The idea of placing them in Mars is just to add a set of constraints in terms of no access to certain infrastructure that we take for granted. And that just adds another layer of challenges.
So they don't have to think about improving things. They think about creating brand new things that hopefully will generate a step change in our industry.
So as you saw, we had a lot of engagement from these students during these workshops. They were very enthusiastic about really rethinking how we could build in Mars. And by rethinking about imagining how we could build in Mars, that was helping us think how we could build in a whole different way here on Earth. And we had, I'll point out this table here on the left-hand side of this slide. And this table had 3 generations of Carnegie Mellon engineers, one of which, the older gentleman there on the blue vest, he's a retired NASA engineer. So they were on campus that Saturday afternoon, and they saw our poster, our vague poster. And it was family weekend that weekend, and they were together enjoying their day, and they saw this poster, decided to come and participate. It was a treat to have 3 generations there participate in our workshop, especially a retired NASA engineer who really enjoyed the experience there. At the end of these workshops, we were left with thousands of Post-its that we had to catalog, classify, organize into more manageable pieces of information. I literally had Post-its nightmares the nights after these workshops, because it was a lot of information to sift through. But after going through this analysis process, that's how we came up with our technology enablers. And we were trying to answer this question: how can we enable the efficient performance of valuable actions through these technology enablers? We came up with 12 technology enablers ranging from transparency and trust to environmental sustainability. And these really came up from the ideas that the students had, that the participants in our technology committee, the technology committee members also had and added to. And I'll give you an example of 2 of these technology enablers so you understand how we can use this information. So number 3 here is equipment and facility modularization, and number 10 is automation. For equipment and facility modularization, we mean division of a system into physically and functionally distinct units. And this is important because that way your attention can be concentrated on particular modules or the interface between modules. And that means equipment and facilities can become more agile through a variable capacity and multifunction. And you'll see an example of this in one of our challenge teams results. Number 10 is automation. And by this, we mean minimizing human involvement in design, construction, maintenance, and operations without adversely affecting process reliability. The importance of this is that it really frees human capacity to be used for innovation and for high-level thinking. You'll also see examples of automation in our example challenge team output. So now Jan Coleman from ExxonMobil will discuss the process in which we undertook to develop the challenge teams.
Thank you, Fernanda. So in addition to collating for the prerequisites, we also managed to come up with the 5 challenges from the Mars Industries work. For the challenges, we assembled a team comprising of a student as well as representatives from both an owner and a contractor. The 5 challenges that we came up with were no cranes on a construction site. So imagine a project where tower cranes do not exist, yet the requirements for lifting and placing remain. The project will eliminate the unproductive components of crane usage through alternative technologies or increase the productive components of crane usage to include significantly more usable tasks. The second team was no people on the construction site or in facilities. So imagine a project that is constructed, operated, maintained without people by reducing or eliminating human interface through the implementation of construction automation tools and systems. The third team was maximize information availability through a capital project's AI. So imagine a future where a capital project AI makes all routine or mundane decisions on a project and supports humans in only making the critical, chaotic, or experimental decisions. The third team, no permitting process. Imagine a project where planning permission is granted instantaneously through an artificially intelligent automated process. And then the final team's challenge was from green to black. Imagine a future where capital projects are seen as a green industry. All construction materials will come from either the circular economy or locally sourced, preferably both. All energy used on the project will come from consistently produced renewable local energy sources. Just want to quickly talk about how technology development is exploding. It's an exponential growth. The rate of change of technological development is exponential. We can expect at least the same amount of advancement in the next 30 years as we have done in the previous 90 years. To imagine a future 30 years from now, we must understand and overcome the limitations of today's technologies, as well as envision technologies that must emerge in the future. So a quick overview of the assignment. The assignment for each challenge team was to develop a vision for how the challenge can be fulfilled by the year 2050, along with 10-year and 5-year milestones. The vision should imagine any needed prerequisite technologies or methodologies and be unencumbered by the limitations of today's technologies and business processes. To give a sense of urgency, we only gave each team a 6-week sprint. For an example of the team output, I'm now going to hand it over to Misha, Nikulin from Bechtel Corporation and Todd Sutton from Zachary Corporation.
All right, thank you, Jan. I'm very excited to be here and really appreciate the opportunity to talk today about the no cranes possibility in 2050. So we were giving a challenge as a team to imagine a project site where cranes don't exist. We were tasked to evaluate either no cranes technology solutions or modifications and with a few enablers that we'll walk you briefly through today as well. So our team had two representatives from Bechtel, myself, Misha, Nikulin, and my colleague Jennifer Monreal from our physical prototyping innovation practice at the WATSI, or as Welding and Applied Technology Center. We had two employees from Zachary, Todd Sutton, who's was introduced earlier today and is co-presenting with us today, and Jai Rahman, and from UT Austin, Abdullah Al-Suhaibani. And as a team, we came up with a vision for our challenge task to accelerate solutions that will potentially eliminate tower cranes on site. And you can read that vision vertically in blue. What you can also see here is the full version of our vision, which says accelerate the creation of the most efficient lifting and placing solutions for capital projects by leveraging emerging technologies that will positively impact productivity and safety and potentially eliminate tower cranes on site. So with that vision, I would like to ask Todd to present next our ideas.
Thank you, Misha. Come join us on our path to the future. Team 1, No Tower Cranes 2050. We looked at flying things, robotics, new materials, additive manufacturing, emerging technologies, and crazy ideas year 2050 and beyond. Imagine a job site with no tower cranes. Ideal number 1, heavy duty drone. Here's an example from Griff Aviation of the Griff 135, capable of lifting 500 pounds. Ideal number 2, strong magnetic field. This is an example of a 300-pound toolbox being lifted with a magnetic base on the Griff 135. Ideal number 4, crawling robot. This robot can transverse the structure either vertically or horizontally to place materials. Ideal number 5, ladder materials. This is shown with the gantry crane system and can navigate the structure horizontally and vertically for material placements. Biomaterials. This is biomason, where they're growing concrete bricks from bioorganisms. Ideal number 6, no gravity bubble tent. Crazy ideas 2050 and beyond. Here we have able to assemble modules on the ground and prefabricate spools for placing in place. Here's the sky picker from Vertical Solutions. It's a temporary crane system. Ideal number 7, additive manufacturing. This is an example of a 3D printed foam platform. Now we're showing the Hassel EOC NASA Mars habitat submission, where they're using resources on Mars. Ideal number 8, flying platform. This is a flying platform that can carry materials and place materials. Again, another example from Hassel EOC NASA Mars habitat submission. Now I'll turn it over to Misha.
Thanks, Todd. So really, the creating the excitement about the whole effort was key. And first, you've got to really believe in the possibilities yourself. You need to put yourself into the yes and mode. And as we say in the design thinking framework terms, and this makes it really contagious for others. And we focused on generating the excitement first during the kickoff meetings. And then next, we didn't really jump to content writing right away, but we started with structured ideation and brainstorming process. We did use Microsoft Teams as a tool to efficiently collaborate remotely as a team. And in my role, heading the intrapreneurship practice on the Bechtel Innovate team, which is led by our Chief Innovation Officer, David Wilson, we also have design thinking experience and expertise, as I mentioned, and leveraging this intrapreneurial experience, we made the brainstorming session really fun and productive. One evening during this challenge, my two daughters, one just finished high school and one is in the middle school, and we got together and generated ideas that I then turned into these handmade sketches, as you see here. And then Todd on our team brilliantly incorporated some of them into video material that you saw earlier. So the way it goes is that you start brainstorming with incremental ideas first. And then you push yourself beyond the foundational layers. And then you start adding constraints and different conditions like no physical restrictions or no human limitations or no budget limits. So that way, Todd and I really guided the team to suggest additional interesting ideas, like the ideas that are really replacement versus modifications. Things like autonomous construction and so on. So we spent some time, in addition to that, dreaming about the moonshot, crazy type of ideas. As often a breakthrough would be a moonshot type of idea that you can then pull down to reality. So these sketches do represent some of these idea categories. And the brainstorming really effort resulted in 18 distinct ideas, as you can see on the slide, that support our No Crane challenge vision across 6 different themes. So the flying things, different drones, platforms, magnetic fields to be used there. For flying, we had lots of ideas in that space, and this was the first very kind of easy to get into the mode of ideating type of category. Then we moved rapidly into robotics, as Todd showed earlier in the video, the crawling type of robots, sliding robots, different ideas in that theme. New materials, we expect a lot to happen in the space in the coming years. Lighter materials, biotechnology, as well as moving into additive manufacturing with things like on-demand 3D printing. At the bottom, you see various ideas around emerging mechanisms, things like jet-style mechanisms or exoskeletons that are becoming more popular. And on the right, those crazy moonshot type of ideas, like hand with no gravity environment, for example. So in closure here of the section, starting with the ideation process really helped us to get into the mode of being connected with the effort, and everyone contributed, everyone really connected. So we have a couple of reflections here to share with you on the process. I'll cover one, and then I'll ask Todd to comment on the second one. The first one was really amazing that we had the students to be part of the mix. It was fantastic, and the strong mix of academia, owner organizations, EPCs. This was really well structured and well organized, and it helped a lot for us to have this diversity of different opinions. And then Todd, would you like to talk a little bit about the collaborative process that we had?
Yes, Misha. Yes, this was a really amazing project to work on, but mainly because it was such a streamlined project, only having 6 weeks to work on it. It really allowed for us to work as a true team, and also, allowed us to bring the ideas, and really empowered all the team members. Everybody was empowered to contribute to this project, and then it just really helped us kind of consolidate the innovation exploration that we're already doing in our own companies too, to see that other companies are looking at these other solutions as well.
That's right. Yeah, it was absolutely great to see all of us that we were all aligned on some of the future approaches, really confirming the prioritization of certain areas like AI, robotics, autonomy, human aspects, standardization, regulatory challenges. So this was really great. And with that, thanks again for the opportunity to participate in this challenge. Thank you.
Thank you, Misha and Todd, for representing the No Cranes Challenge team. As you can see, they did have lots of fun in the process. And there were 4 other challenge teams that also carried out similar types of challenges. And we wanted to give you a sense of what one of these outputs was like through Misha and Todd. So thanks again for sharing your process with us. So after the challenge teams were completed, we compiled the results of each of the 5 challenge teams in a vision board. And this vision board includes all these different technologies that these teams came up with, including lifting without cranes, autonomous inspection through drones, autonomous robot teams, and a remote command center. So as you can see, these are like the crazy ideas, the moonshot ideas that these teams came up with that can help us envision what 2050 is going to look like. And this is going to change based on what types of challenge the teams are given. But the idea is that it can provide you with inspiration of what we can expect in 2050. One of the major outputs of this research towards the end of the process was the viable path framework. And this framework can enable CII member companies develop their own challenge teams program internally. So it has a step-by-step process of how we facilitated this process within these 5 initial challenge teams. But it has enough information that if you want to develop your own within your organization, you can do so and encourage people to really think in a more innovative way through these challenge teams. So the first step is really to map your system. What is it that you're interested in, you're passionate about? So an example would be the no cranes on job sites. So that could be that the lifting is the system that you're interested in innovating. The dare to imagine, this is really to think about an extreme. If we place people in the extreme, that's what we did with the students through the Mars Industries workshop. We placed them in the extreme. With the challenge teams, we said, no cranes. How do you build without any cranes? Or we said, how do you build without people in your job site? That's an extreme. That really places people in a situation that they really have to think in an innovative way outside the box and rethink that process. Then once you have those ideas, those brainstorming ideas that Misha explained so well and Todd illustrated so well with that video, how do you map them to those technology enablers so that you have some structure of what kinds of investments you need to be making to make those ideas a reality. And finally, it is important to have a timeline to create some milestones of what is it that you need to be developing in a 5, 10, and 30-year period to reach that vision, that moonshot vision. The 5-year period is basically what are the technologies that are already in place now that we can leverage to try to get close to that vision that we're imagining. The 10-year milestones is what are some technologies that might be in other industries that we can adopt in our industry that can possibly make that vision close to reality. So similar to the objective of the technology committee's Horizon 360 team. And then the 30-year vision is really that moonshot idea. And that's what we have to be envisioning now so we can be developing that infrastructure and we can be inspiring scientists, engineers to be able to reach that solution, to solve that problem, to develop that new technology. And that's what that 30-year milestone is. So you have access to the Viable Paths framework in our research report. So we have 3 main key lessons here from this effort: explore, empower, and set goals. So in exploring, we're saying we should all be open and playful to explore new ideas within our organizations. So Todd and Misha explained it like they had fun in the process. Misha recruited his daughters to participate in this process and develop cartoons, which inspired, which led to that development of the video that Todd shared with you all. So they were very playful in their process, and that really kept their minds open to come up with creative ideas. Our next adds the inclusion of students in this process illustrates the importance of empowering our next generation leaders in this envisioning process. They have ideas that we should be hearing. They're unencumbered by professional experience. They can come up with some creative ideas that together we really can come up with some interesting results, which you saw an illustration of today through Challenge Team 1. And finally, it's important to set goals, to develop a framework in which you can carry out a similar sprint, a similar 6-week sprint. There was very specific objectives. There was a structure that was given that they were working towards, and there was the 5-10-year goals that they had to realize that vision. It's important to have a framework for people to work within. And in terms of next steps, we hope to launch new challenge teams through the Technology Committee, and we would like to invite anyone that's interested in participating in new challenge teams to come and join us and come and have fun with the Technology Committee. This is the Path to the Future leadership team. Their names are listed here on the left hand side of the slide, and this picture was taken in one of our face-to-face meetings in Austin. Thank you very much for hearing us out today. And we hope we have inspired you, much like the Jetsons have inspired all of us in our professional endeavors.
And to get us started, to those who presented, was there anything missing from the presentation that, looking back, you would like the audience to know?
Well, first off, thank you for having us as part of the CURT National Conference. It's really a pleasure to be here today and to share this the challenge teams and the Path to the Future project with each and every one of you. I think that the lesson, like looking back at the recording, I think that think about this as a structured ideation process, and it's something that you can develop via the challenge teams if you participate with the challenge teams that are ongoing. Right now we're in challenge team 8 and 9 within CII, but it's also something that you can take and implement in your own organizations. So I think that's the main point there, is it's not something that you need to wait and participate in this formal team within CII. You can run with it in your own organizations and create your own little challenge teams as well. But I'll let Misha chime in, because Misha can also comment from the perspective of a participant.
Thanks, Fernanda. Good to be here. I would say that we probably need to reemphasize the power of collaboration and the power of working together across multiple teams and multiple communities. So I'm really happy to see some of the alliances that are being formed and the participation that triggers for all of us to come together and change the industry. I think this is really powerful, and I'm really happy to see some of these environments that allow us to really openly talk to each other and collaborate and bring value to our industry, where we collaborate across different EPC companies, across the owners, and we bring the students in as well. So I think that the power of collaboration is something to re-emphasize through communities like this, and this is very, very valuable.
Great. Final chance to ask any questions. I know this was a very thorough presentation. Up here are a couple questions right now. The presenters mentioned Horizon 360. Can you explain a little bit more about that effort?
Sure. So Horizon 360 started maybe about 8 years ago within CII. And it was actually, at the time, it was part of FIATech before the merger of FIATech and CII, and it became then, when FIATech merged with CII, it became part of the technology committee, a subcommittee within the CII's technology committee. The objective, so I was the academic chair at the very first couple of years of Horizon 360, and the objective was simply to scan the horizon for technologies in other industries that could potentially impact the construction industry in the next 30 years. So we were trying to look at what are technologies that the automobile industry, the healthcare industry, military, what are they doing that we should be either watching or trying to adapt or prototyping in our industry that could potentially be game changing. And then this effort further evolved, and you can actually access the Horizon 360 wiki page via CII's website, and it has a documented set of technologies and where they're at. So are these more mature technologies like autonomous like drones, for example, or are these technologies that are still in the prototype stage when we're talking about the construction industry, like exoskeletons. So there's a series of technologies that have been mapped and cataloged by the Horizon 360 committee, and it just grew and became more formalized in the last few years. But it's, again, a collaboration between industry and academics. So traditionally, the Horizon 360 is about 50% industry members, 50% academic members, and they pretty much ideate, and each one is on the lookout for new technologies, new innovations, and they bring those in to the technology committee. But now there's a formal process of how to document it and catalog it, and that's what the wiki page has. So I encourage you to go into the H360 wiki page to look at that. And so the idea with how that connects with Path to the Future is via this vision of the 5, 10, 30-year milestone. So the 30-year would be these things that might seem quite crazy now, but there might be something to it that we should be looking at and trying to adapt to our industry. So that's the connecting point. A lot of these technologies we end up sending over, these ideas from the challenge teams, we send over to the Horizon 360 committee so they could formally include them in their wiki page as well and document that. Misha, do you want to add to it?
I think you've covered it very well. I just wanted maybe to echo and expand on the question about some of the things that we may want to add to the material, where I think it's important to keep the value as the priority as we go through all of these ideation efforts, and we come up with these visions of what the future is going to look like, and we're focusing in many cases on the technologies and the how and the what and the how. But I think it's very important to really start with the why, start with the value of what the solution delivers, that it's not just a shiny object that does something cool, right? And it's okay to have some visionary, or like we call the moonshot ideas, to pull something back to the reality and then do something today. But I think the value point is very, very important. And what suggests that we consider as we all move forward is, how can we find opportunities to expand on the value chain, right? So that you don't just focus on the value that the solution provides to a narrow set of customers' internal, external requirements, but you see how some of these solutions can enable the value to be built up on top of what is being delivered through a particular solution, so that we look at the delivery of our projects end to end, where we have pre-planning and planning activities, we have some EPC activities, we hand over our facilities, and then we move into operations. How do we bring value, like we talked about, no cranes on a construction site? So there's relatively narrow set of scope that was given to us as a challenge, and we could deliver solutions that would enable additional values through operations. And there are multiple efforts these days that are happening that connect all these kind of life cycle phases together to allow this enablement of value. So I think it's very important. And the second point that I wanted to bring up is that there's some themes that are entering our world rapidly after the COVID-19 and after some of the goals that have been re-emphasized. things around sustainability, things around environmental solutions. So having some of these themes to be incorporated with whatever technologies we bring will kind of allow us to set this foundation, whether it's digital or physical, for enabling this additional value.
Great, thank you. Another question from one of the attendees. Sticky notes are a great idea. How will you do this same exercise virtually with the current limitations on travel and groups due to COVID? Are there tools you can use?
I just did this yesterday in my graduate level class at UT. I use Mural, which is an online collaboration tool. That's pretty much a whole bunch of sticky notes that you can use together at the same time. So it really emulates that process. But there's all sorts of new tools. I know that Microsoft Teams has something similar. There's something called Jamboard. So I think COVID-19 has really helped all of us rethink how we collaborate online more efficiently. And I like I said, Mural is pretty cool. I've used it for several workshops right now, CII workshops outside of CII, and also teaching in the classroom as well. Misha, do you have any other thoughts?
Yeah, I think you've covered, you've named some of them. I'm if you Google, these virtual sticky notes, there are all kinds of solutions there. What I want to encourage to consider is the approach that we take to ideation with design thinking. And I mentioned it through the presentation. I will emphasize it again, because the design thinking approach to how we ideate allows some quiet time, allows some collaborative time, and allows a good mix of how we move through ideation, whether it's incremental or progressive. The use of virtual tools these days is so accessible, and the tools that were mentioned by Fernanda allow you to do this via web or via your machine. There's a new wave of tools that's coming into this world that allow you to do it in a very immersive virtual environment. They're VR-based tools. So this space is going to evolve. As we know, the major platform providers are investing a lot of money into this space. So I'm really excited that to see this prioritization of this exact focus on collaboration for some of the platform providers. So I've seen some of the beta testing previews from some of these platforms, and this space is only going to grow. So I wouldn't be too concerned about not having the right tools to replace the sticky notes. I think it's the approach that we take. It's the culture of being open, the culture of participating, the culture of mixing different talent in your collaboration session so that you have a high performing team, because not everybody is going to come out there and speak up, right? Not everybody turns the camera on in these meetings today, right? Which is okay, because we all have our strengths, and that's the challenge, right? How do we build this high performing team for collaboration so that we get the best of from each talent, and then we combine it to a successful delivery?
Great, thank you both for those answers. Next question, will Amazon get into construction? If so, what might that look like in your opinions?
I'll let Misha take that one.
Thanks. Yeah, well, if you know, let me know, right? So we don't represent that. Of course, there's so many new players, and I think as any mature company, you watch the market. And our job in innovation is to always know what the trends are, what the threats are, what the forces are, and we constantly on the watch to analyze, to understand what the competition is doing, what is our customers' priorities are, and who are the new players. There's an analysis in management called 5 Forces, where you look at new entry points and you see who is a candidate to be a new entrant, right? And it's always fascinating to see some completely new categories that can come in. And as they come in, I think some of the things that we need to be watching is substitution. It's called the power of substitutes, right? So I think whoever is going to come in to our industry will not do things the way they're done today, right? Whoever is going to come in strongly into our industry, they will bring some approaches that that are completely different, and that would be a substitute. And that's the power of those who come in with substitutes, because they have a chance to take on some of the market share and capture that. So I think having an analysis done on the market research and the market players who have the power of providing something as a substitute. We talked about emerging technologies, we talked about robotics, we talked about automation, we talked about the unlocking the power of artificial intelligence. So some of these approaches will drive this ability to provide some substitute. And as a big company, like, you know, Bechtel is the leader in the space where we constantly monitoring and watching and collaborating in the space, you know, through conferences like this and through some other means. And that allows us to stay and be the leader and be, you know where our strengths is and win more work.
Great, thank you. The next question is for Misha. What innovations or technologies is Bechtel particularly excited about? Anything out of this project that has you and your fellow employees excited about looking at more closely?
I think I mentioned a couple. So the most exciting ideas, and that's a chicken and egg situation. The most exciting ideas for me is when you see the customer and their excitement lights up, right? So when we deliver something that is as valuable for the customer as they couldn't even dream about, and we see an excitement in their eyes, and they want to do it with us together, and they want us to use a technology that we would bring in. In many cases, some of these technologies, you know, may not be on the cutting edge. It's not something that, you know, maybe the cutting edge, the most sophisticated tech. It's been maybe proven through some of our prototype and pilot activities, but that's something that is delivering the actual value, right? So those are the technologies that would get the customer excited, and that's what we get excited. And look, you know, let's say we're talking about autonomous delivery of material in the field, right? You know, great example of something that may get some folks excited. You need to have some foundational technologies in place in order for that technology to work. You need to know where the material is. You need to have some basic location services in place. You need to allow your autonomous vehicles to know where to go. So some of the foundational technologies need to be in place. And once they're all in place, and once we see that enablement of more sophisticated technology to deliver value to us and the customer, that's what gets me personally excited. So some of these, the linkage of foundational technologies with the sophisticated technology, but really focusing on the value for our customers and for our teams. That's the stuff that gets me excited. I don't know, Fernanda, do you want to add something here?
Sure. I think connecting what you just said, Misha, with the Amazon question. Sometimes it does take a new company, a new perspective to really push that step change of technological innovation in one industry. So think about Tesla. I think about Elon Musk trying to push with his Boring company when he started building those high-speed rail in California, and seeing the process of boring and trying to rethink how can we develop this process more efficiently, more cost effectively, quicker. So sometimes it takes an outside person to bring in that fresh perspective to really push that technological change. And so considering the foundational technology, sometimes a new technology that another company was already using for a different purpose can be adapted to that problem. But always keep in mind that I think the important thing is to have these different perspectives at the table. And that's what's really cool about these challenge teams and these ideation processes, because everybody brings in a different perspective. And Misha pointed out the presence of students, right? The students bring in a fresh perspective as well. There's people from different companies. So the more diverse perspective you have in these collaborations, the more room you'll have to come up with these breakthroughs and creative ideas that can solve the problem that you're trying to solve. And another key point is to keep in mind is start from a problem. And I think Misha mentioned this, start from the why, right? So it's important to be intentional about why you're doing that. You're not using a new technology just because it's cool. Like we see still in the construction industry, a lot of people using augmented reality, virtual reality, but you really have to be intentional about when you're using that technology. Does it really bring value to your projects? When does it? What are the right use cases for that specific type of technology? So starting from the problem is key, because there might be multiple solutions to that problem. Some may not even be a sophisticated technology. It might be a paper and pencil, and that's fine too. So long as you reach that breakthrough that you're looking for.
One thing that I'd like to add, and thanks for kind of sparkling some more thoughts around this. I think on this point of value and expanding the value, there's so many solutions that address individual problems, and it's always good to see an approach that allows you to build up a consolidated value stream where you take a number of solutions through the space, and you have a consolidating capability that will bring things together. So one thing that I'm really excited about that is, it's continued to be more developed these days, and different companies define this technology differently, but many companies have pretty solid, strong positions on it, and it is digital twin. So in the digital space, you can have a number of different technologies that you kind of bring together and you deliver it as a value add. So things like that would really get me excited, where you have an opportunity not only to deliver value, but you have an opportunity to zoom out and be a little bit more strategic about a number of things that you can just bring together, end-to-end approach, and kind of deliver as a consolidated value. So those are some of the things that would also kind of get me excited and allow me to think a little differently and a little bit more strategic.
Great. Well, thank you guys both for sticking around and answering some questions. This was a very informative presentation. We are going to wrap up the last part of the 2021 CURT National Conference with the link that I provided in the chat. It'll be our closing speaker, and then you'll also hear a few words from the Executive Vice President, Greg Sizemore. Thank you again, both of our speakers. You did a great job, and we really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to speak with all of us.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much. Our pleasure. Bye.